Tonight, the shocking news from Los Angeles. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, is dead at the age of 50.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
A special good evening tonight to our viewers joining us on the West Coast, especially in Los Angeles, where we're getting live pictures of the helicopter about to take off from UCLA Medical Center bearing the body of Michael Jackson on its way to the coroners. Every American generation has its icons in the world of entertainment. Michael Jackson has been one of the best-known stars on this planet for the last several decades, really. Tonight came the word from L.A. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, as he was called, has died. He was 50 years old. As you know, he was preparing for a massive big money series of concerts in London. Rolling Stone magazine recently called it his last shot. And a lot will be said about Michael Jackson starting tonight and over the coming days. He was incredibly talented, a child star at first, who as an adult was a deeply troubled man with mental and physical health issues. We are covering this still breaking story tonight from L.A. all the way east here to New York. Rahima Ellis and Lester Holt standing by. NBC's Michael Oku at the hospital in L.A. But we want to begin here tonight with the statement at the hospital minutes ago from Michael's brother, Jermaine Jackson.
This is hard. My brother, the legendary king of pop, Michael Jackson, passed away on Thursday, June 25th, 2009 at 2:26 p.m. It is believed he suffered cardiac arrest in his home. However, the cause of his death is unknown until results of the autopsy are known. His personal physician, who was with him at the time, attempted to resuscitate my brother. And as did the paramedics who transported him to Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center. Upon arriving at the hospital at approximately 1:14 p.m., a team of doctors, including emergency physicians and cardiologists, attempted to resuscitate him for a period of more than 1 hour, and they were unsuccessful. Our family requests that the media please respect our privacy during this tough time. And may Allah be with you, Michael, always. Love you.
Thank you very much.
Jermaine Jackson took no questions at the hospital where the helicopter has just lifted off the rooftop helipad again. Body of Michael Jackson's inside, heading to the coroner's office on the ground outside the hospital. As we mentioned, NBC News correspondent Michael Oku. Michael, good evening.
Good evening, Brian. First came the news that a 911 call had been made from inside Michael Jackson's home. Then the news that paramedics had rushed to the aid of a 50-year-old man in distress. Then the bombshell that that man was indeed Michael Jackson and that the legendary pop singer was dead. Word of Jackson's death spread quickly. And not surprising, in no time at all, a crowd began gathering around UCLA Medical Center in Westwood. His fans shocked by Jackson's sudden death.
It's too soon. It's awful. And as you can tell, everyone's in shock.
Just in disbelief.
At first, I thought it was a hoax.
Yeah.
The 911 call came from Jackson's Holmby Hills home in Los Angeles at around 12:30 Pacific this afternoon. Reportedly, he was not breathing. We're told paramedics performed CPR on Jackson, then rushed him to UCLA Medical Center. The coroner's office will conduct an autopsy tomorrow morning. In the meantime, the crowds are still gathering here in relative silence. The only sound, the major sound, is really helicopters buzzing overhead and the sounds of motorists blasting Michael Jackson's music. Brian.
Michael Oku outside Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center in LA tonight. Michael Jackson had been preparing, as we mentioned, for what he hoped would be his career comeback, including dozens of sold-out shows in London. Our own Peter Alexander has a look tonight at the life and times of a troubled but extraordinary performer.
From the beginning, you couldn't take your eyes off him. His older brothers, who made up the rest of the Jackson 5, sang and moved. But Michael, the youngest and clearly the prodigy, was the one who moved you. Under the tutelage of producer Quincy Jones, Jackson later evolved as a solo performer, which redefined him for his already adoring public. Fans also saw and seemed to like his unmistakable style, the military costumes and that sequined glove. His 1982 album Thriller won 8 Grammys, made Jackson's moonwalk a signature, and gave him the stature to call on any collaborator he chose. But just as quickly as his star rose, Jackson's eccentricities became more clear, including the changing color of his skin. Jackson also turned a California ranch into a child's fantasy called Neverland. But in 1993, a 13-year-old boy claimed that Jackson had molested him. The case was settled, with Jackson never admitting any guilt.
These statements about me are totally false.
Jackson was married twice, first to Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis's daughter, and 3 children after that marriage, failed to remove the suspicions fanned by an unquenchable tabloid fire. He fed that fire too, dangling his baby from a German hotel balcony, testifying woozily in a bizarre court appearance, telling a filmmaker there was nothing wrong with sharing his bedroom with children, including one child who in 2003 made another accusation that a boozy Jackson had molested him, and this time said so on the witness stand. Michael Jackson had become the biggest star with truly international status ever brought to trial on a serious felony charge, but still, he was celebrated by a worldwide following and will forever be ranked among the greatest music artists of all time. Peter Alexander, NBC News, New York.
And so from the East Coast to the West, folks are coming home from work, coming home from school, and learning of this news. And for many of them, they're joining impromptu gatherings outside. Among those places, the heart of Harlem, 125th Street, the Apollo Theater. Rahima Ellis is there with those who have come out to remember Michael Jackson's life. Rahima?
Brian, I can tell you, when I first got here this evening, the mood was very somber. People were literally crying in the street and shaking their heads. But it has changed. A spontaneous block party of sorts has broken out here. People have been in somewhat of a Soul Train dance right down the middle of 125th Street and stopping the traffic. They are selling his CDs and playing his music. It is somewhat of a block party, and in an American entrepreneurial spirit, Brian, they've even started selling T-shirts in memory of Michael Jackson, selling them for $10 a shirt. The famous Apollo Theater put up a marquee in memory of Michael Jackson. Reverend Sharpton said he was looking forward to the concerts, and maybe we could see Michael Jackson moon dance one more time. They're doing that for him tonight up here in Harlem. Brian?
All right, Rahima Ellis on 125th Street. Hopefully at least Don Cornelius is smiling somewhere tonight. Lester Holt is here with us in our New York studios. Lester, you and I have been talking about this now for the few hours we've known about the news. Think about how he affected American pop culture. We just saw the sequin glove. Unheard of, outlandish that anyone would wear one glove. It became iconic along with the way he moved,
and what
the
do
way
we call
he sounded.
Him? The gloved one. All these words come to, you know, Brian, I was thinking that whenever his name would come up in a conversation before today, we would talk about how odd he was, his plastic surgery, all these things would come up, and then the conversation would always end, but boy, what an entertainer, what a performer. And we're seeing that in just some of the tributes we've received tonight from Dick Clark. Here's a man that has seen virtually every talent. He says, I knew Michael as a child and watched him grow over the years. Of all the thousands of entertainers I've worked with, Michael was the most outstanding. That comes from Dick Clark. Tonight we've also got a statement from Madonna, in which she says, I can't stop crying over the sad news. This actually is from the People magazine tribute section. She says, I can't stop crying over the sad news. I've always admired Michael Jackson. The world has lost one of its greats. Lisa Marie Presley, of course, his ex-wife, they were married in the 90s, said, I'm so very sad and confused with every emotion possible. I'm heartbroken for his children, who I know were everything to him, and for his family. The first of many tributes that will come in.
All of it coming in began tonight. Lester, thanks for that. And of course, this news about Michael Jackson comes in after an already sad day, especially in the entertainment community. Farrah Fawcett died this morning, losing her long battle against cancer. A look back at her life tonight from NBC's Lee Cowan.
There are all the obvious ways to remember Farrah Fawcett, starting with that iconic poster every teenage boy had in his room. Of course, there was also her golden halo, the locks that made her the perfect angel for Charlie.
What denomination are you, little lady?
35, 24, 35.
With that, the cover girl became the talk of the TV nation.
You are more than famous.
But those images stand in stark contrast to these, from a documentary she produced. Her signature hair, gone. Her wincing in pain. Pictures she wanted the world to see, determined to fight the cancer that eventually killed her.
I used to wonder how people who were very sick with a terminal diagnosis could get up and go on with their lives.
It was that stoic approach to the inevitable that her fans remembered today. Her co-stars, too. Cheryl Ladd called her incredibly brave. Jacqueline Smith honored her courage and strength. Farrah Fawcett was born a Texas girl. In college, she had frat boys lining up for a look. They liked what they saw, and so did Hollywood.
Ultra Bright has more whiteness.
Her smile launched TV commercials, and the rest was history.
And for my life.
Her appearance in The Burning Bed about abused women earned her the first of 3 Emmy nominations. She was rarely out of the spotlight, even with the men in her life. She married Lee Majors, the $6 million man, but that ended in 1982. She then began a lifelong relationship with actor Ryan O'Neal, who was at her side through the chemo, through the surgeries, and the recurring diagnoses.
We win. We'll win. We will.
He said recently the ordeal had brought them closer together. He even suggested the two might marry if she was well enough. But that day never came. This morning, O'Neal left St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica alone. He and Farrah did have a son, Redmond, who made a touching but brief appearance in the Star's documentary. He was serving time on a drug charge, but was granted a few moments back in April to say goodbye.
Honey, it's Red. It's your son.
But he remained in jail last night, unable to see his mother's final moments. Instead, Farrah Fawcett bid farewell to him in her journal.
When one day you wake up and realize that I'm gone, I will still be there.
America's favorite angel, dead at 62. Lee Cowan, NBC News, Los Angeles.
The first of 2 major losses today. The second, of course, Michael Jackson. And our viewers in the Southland will be familiar with this trajectory. We watched the chopper take off from UCLA Hospital. It has now landed at USC at the helipad there. It now will go by ground, be transferred to a coroner's van to a downtown LA location. You see it backing up to the side of the helicopter there. And we wanted to let you know that we will remember Farrah Fawcett and Michael Jackson tonight in a special broadcast of Dateline anchored by my colleague Ann Curry. This runs 2 hours this evening from 9 to 11, only on this NBC station. When this broadcast continues along the way tonight, the latest on this still developing story in Los Angeles and new developments in the scandal involving the governor of South Carolina. Now to some of today's other news, the latest big ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court, this one involving just how far public schools can go to enforce what have become known as those zero-tolerance policies. Have they gone too far when it comes to our own children? In a case involving a 13-year-old girl, the court today put new limits on a very controversial practice, strip searches. Our report from our justice correspondent, Pete Williams.
The ruling is a victory for Savannah Redding, now a college student. When she was just 13, she was subjected to a humiliating strip search at her middle school in Arizona. Suspected of passing around prescription-strength ibuprofen, each pill no stronger than 2 common Advil tablets.
I think I was kind of in shock. I had my head down. I just wanted to do what they told me and get out of there as soon as I could.
The school said the search was justified because students had recently become seriously ill from drugs that were passed around. But today's ruling, written by Justice David Souter, and very likely his last before stepping down, said strip searches are highly intrusive, especially embarrassing and frightening for adolescents, and therefore allowed only when students face imminent danger. The school district, he said, had no reason to think the pills in this case were dangerous, were being passed around in large amounts, or were hidden in her underwear. So by a vote of 8-1, the court said the strip search was unconstitutional. Only Clarence Thomas voted for the school.
What the Supreme Court really held today is that the Constitution and common sense both lead to the same conclusion. The strip search of a 13-year-old girl is a much more serious event than searching her backpack.
Nationwide, 7 states have already banned strip searches. So have 3/4 of school districts in Arizona, now including the one Savannah Redding attended. But school officials say they hope the ruling won't make it harder to keep drugs out.
We would hope that the decision doesn't act in such a way that school districts are fearful of acting or taking the necessary measures that they need to take to ensure student safety.
We'll get this term's final decisions Monday. The court will review a reverse discrimination ruling by Sonia Sotomayor, nominated to replace Justice Souter. Pete Williams, NBC News at the Supreme Court.
When we come back, the latest on the story of Governor Mark Sanford and the death of Michael Jackson. We're back, and now to today's developments in what was our lead story last night. South Carolina, where Governor Mark Sanford stayed out of the public eye, holed up with his family as some of his own party leaders and no small number of his constituents there said he should resign. Here's NBC's Mark Potter.
In a statement today, Governor Sanford said while on this official Commerce Department trade mission last summer to South America, he met with his mistress in Argentina and would now reimburse the state for that part of the trip. The day after his public confession at the state capitol, the big question is whether Mark Sanford can still remain as governor of South Carolina. Even fellow Republicans aren't sure.
We simply don't know. We're getting information, and as people see the light of what's transpired, they'll be making the right decisions.
Democratic Representative Todd Rutherford is already calling for Sanford's resignation, as is a top GOP legislator.
Governor Sanford disappeared for the last 5 days and tried to orchestrate this elaborate cover-up.
A question being raised is whether by leaving his car at an airport filled with hiking gear, telling his staff he was hiking the Appalachian Trail when he was actually flying to Argentina incommunicado to be with his mistress, Governor Sanford was derelict in his duty to the state. James Underwood, professor emeritus at the University of South Carolina School of Law, says he doubts any of the known facts so far could lead to impeachment.
It seems to be more of a personal misstep, a lack of prudence, a lack of good judgment than something that's constitutionally offensive.
Meanwhile, the newspaper The State released some emails between the governor and his mistress, in which the governor closed one of them last summer by saying, "Love you, good night, and kisses back to you." Today, the governor spent time with his family at their beach home and said he has no plans to resign. Mark Potter, NBC News, Columbia, South Carolina.
Back with an update on the death of Michael Jackson tonight, right after this. London newspapers, especially the tabloids, loved to call him Jacko when he was alive. This is the cover of The Independent for Friday morning in the UK, saying simply, "The King of Pop is dead." And a few moments ago on the helicopter pad at USC, his body taken from a helicopter and put in the coroner's van, again for autopsy right away to try to determine the cause of death of Michael Jackson. Lester Holt has been my partner in this coverage and watching it for several hours. Lester, we were talking about all that he has given, the iconography of Michael Jackson, all that he has given pop culture.
You know, if you separate his personal life from his musical career, it's almost two different discussions, because the musical career was just nothing short of stunning. And I think we'll read in the papers tomorrow the different music experts, but I think it was the Thriller album in 1982 that really crystallized this guy from a great singer to a true superstar, truly the king of pop. That's a music video that the world had never seen, anything like that. MTV was still fledgling back in 1982, and they were showing bands on a stage playing music. This was a motion picture production, this video, and many people think it helped launch MTV into what it would later become. But it was more than that. It was the dance moves, the group, the choreography here, his own, the white glove, the white socks, the fedora, all these things that became synonymous with Michael Jackson. The glove one. Remember that term all the time? You couldn't hear news copy referring to Michael Jackson without the glove one today did X, Y, and Z.
That's right. He moved like no one else. And there's also the other side of this. You know, the crowds gathering at the hospital tonight reminded a lot of us of the crowds we'd last seen at his trial.
When I first saw this picture earlier this afternoon, I thought, my goodness, that looks like what we saw up in Santa Barbara during the trial. You could argue it's what we saw everywhere that Michael Jackson would go. Remember the crowds overseas? He'd go over to Asia, and just the thousands would fill the street. Not a lot of entertainers could draw these kinds of crowds all the time, and Michael Jackson could. And I've been receiving emails from relatives and friends and of different ages, and it reminds me that this is an entertainer who touched so many different generations along the way.
It's a big event in this country tonight. Lester Holt, thank you for being with us for our coverage tonight. That is our broadcast for this Thursday night. Thank you for being with us. A reminder, our colleague Ann Curry is going to be back on the air here tonight anchoring a special 2-hour edition of Dateline. That's at 9 o'clock p.m. tonight for 2 hours. I'm Brian Williams. We hope to see you back here tomorrow evening. For Lester Holt, my colleagues here in New York, good night.